Continuing with the kitchen layout, I want to put some lights in the ceiling. So in order to put lights there, hosted by a ceiling, so we have to have a ceiling there. Your template shows a ceiling there, but it's extended out all the way to the walls there. So I'm going to go to this view, and then I want to select that ceiling, and it's very easy to select it this way. In plan view, sometimes it gets a little difficult. I'm going to say edit the boundary, and Revit set this up and says, hey, you can edit the boundary, but not in this view. So which view do you want to use? And I just let it go to whatever one Revit says we need. And we can see that there is a magenta line here. If I isolate that category, you can see the magenta line better. See, that's, and each room has its own set of, has its own ceiling, because the ceiling gets put on after the walls are installed. So the drywall or the ceiling, the gypsum board would not be this large. So I'll reset the temporary hide, and I'm going to just grab that line and drag it back. The gypsum board would sit on top of the wall gypsum board. So we use the align tool to pick. Revit doesn't know exactly which one I want, so I use the tab key until it selects the line that I want, and I will align to that. And then I want to align to this guy. So I just kept hitting the tab key till Revit highlighted what I wanted. And I think there's I can't tell. So I like to use this tool. I go down to the isolate category and I can see, yeah, it looks good. That's all I need. My edges appear to be connected. So if they are, then I'll hit the green check mark. And it's telling me that I had a incandescent light in the ceiling already, but it's not in the boundary of the ceiling anymore. So it wants to delete that, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to say cancel, and I'm going to go look for that incandescent light, see if I can find it in the ceiling. And I don't see it. So I guess I will have to delete it. What I was going to do is just grab it and drag it over. But I don't see it there. Let's see if it's hidden. Um, see it there either. So, all right. So we'll say, okay, go ahead and delete it. And that's probably why, because I wasn't looking in the ceiling plan. In the ceiling plan, I probably would have seen it. So let's undo that. And see if we can see that ceiling. Well, it's deleted, so let's undo that again. And we'll do one more. And right, cancel that. That was the, it should be there somewhere. I am in the ceiling plan. I don't see it. All right, so I will back to where we started. We'll just delete that instance. But there's my ceiling. Now, I want to put a bunch of lights in the ceiling and want to get them pretty close to properly spaced. So my little trick is I change it to 2x2 ceiling. Now I have a grid there. This is your drop ceiling, but I have a grid that's spaced evenly. So now let's go to architecture component and let's pick a light L I, there we go. 6-inch incandescent, 120 volts. All right. And if I put one right on this intersection, and this intersection, and then here, 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 and just keep going back, that should provide a good amount of light. So I'm doing every other grid line. And let's just stop right here. Let's see, should we stop there? Okay, that's good. Put the ceiling in there. Then I go back and select that ceiling again from the, let's see if we can, nope, I can't get it. Oh, maybe I did. Nope, can't. I'll get it in the section. That's the easiest place to select it. It's right here, I think. Yep, that's my ceiling. I want to change that to the gypsum board, gypsum wall board. That changed it back. The correct ceiling now, it doesn't have the grid in there anymore. And let's put some openings. Put an opening here to get in. I think the openings are in the component. So let's see, OP, E. Yep. So I'll just start with 2'4" openings. Looks like, but I want to make them bigger. So to do that, I want to pull this down a little bit more. And then we'll click on this object and then change the properties to 3 feet wide. 36 by 84. Okay, that looks good. That just makes it a little bit wider, but use the arrow keys to nudge it down. And this time I'll be lazy. I'll use the modify tab and match properties. So I'll say, this is what I want this one to become. So now I have some openings in my kitchen to get into the kitchen. Let's put a door wall back here. I think that might be in windows though. Well, let's go to doors first. It really is a door. Now, let's go to windows. I'm looking for a sliding glass door wall. Let's see if there's such a thing in the windows. Nope. Okay, so then we'll try doors. Let's see what kind of door. Ooh. Sliding patio door. That looks good. And we'll put that right there. And then we have one other window we want to put in front of the sink. So let's look for a good, that's really what I want right there, is a double wide. We'll put it, it's a vent. That means that both windows will open. Put it right there. And I want that window to be centered. Now the nailing flange right here really nails to in plan view, you can see that this is the rigid insulation. So that means that the offset has to be 4 inches. So let's take a look, edit the type, and inset is 0. So that's why it's on the face. We're going to say 4 inches and say, okay. And what that does is that moves that nailing flange back to the proper location. There we go. Now you can see that nailing flange is right up against the rigid insulation. They might nail it to the plywood, I'm not sure, but for our purposes, this is okay. And now I want to make sure that it's aligned with the center of the sink. There it is. It's off by just a little bit. All right. So now in the previous video, I said, well, we don't have any illumination in our kitchen. So if we tried to render it, we wouldn't have any light. And so therefore it would just be black. So this does a better job. I should put the floor in too before we render it. So back to the first floor. Now it's time to put the floor in. Let's say we want the floor to be oak. Architecture. We're looking for the floor. There it is. What kind of floor do we want? Oak. And it would be, the oak is 3/4 of an inch above the first floor because it lays on the first floor. Now we can draw the perimeter, which would go to the inside of the gypsum board and to the inside of the gypsum board. And we'll say, okay. Can't see it in this particular view, but let's go, let's see if we can see it here. Yeah, there it is. So some people, in an effort to save money, would not put the floor all the way up to the wall. They just put it up to the base cabinets. But I like to go all the way to the wall in the event that if this were a real project and these cabinets were removed at any point for a different design, you would want the floor to be all the way there. For example, if the owners at some point in time took this countertop out, just delete it for a second, you see there would be a floor there. And if they took it out for whatever reason, and there wasn't a floor there, it would be very difficult to match by putting in new flooring. So I like that. So it's a little bit more. Can be argued either way. But thinking down the line, that's probably what you want to do. So now let's go back to that view. Now there's a floor in there. It's a little bit easier to see. But I want to render it. ZE will extend this view out to the extents of the window. And then we go over to view and we say cloud rendering, render in cloud. Use the render quality of final and the size is max. Whoops, I want it to be maximum. And then I say start rendering. Now what this is doing is it's using the Autodesk server, and it's telling me that it can't find one of the materials, but I just say that's okay. Oops, let's go back. I just say okay. So now you can see up in your toolbar that it is rendering. It's much faster to use the Autodesk server than it is to use your own computer, unless you've got some crazy high speed computer. And the other disadvantage is if you use your computer to render, which would be this button, you can't work on your project while it's rendering. Now, what I may have forgotten to do is actually turn these lights on. So to turn the lights on, render, and scheme, sun and artificial. And then I have to start rendering again. And I also said, if you're rendering this on your computer, you can't keep working. Well, you can't keep working on Revit, but you could go work on another, through the beauty of Windows, you could go work on another program, but Revit, if you're rendering it in your own, with this tool, if you're rendering it on your own computer, then that does not give you the ability to render or to work in that particular program. So you could start another Revit program and work on that. But generally it's quicker and allows you to continue to keep working if you do the cloud rendering. So I can see that it's rendering in the cloud. I'm going to say, well, I want to see that rendering, so take me to the gallery. Take me to my rendering gallery. And you'll have to authenticate as well. You can see that it's still rendering. It takes a while, but it could take hours on your computer, but it won't take that long. It'll take 10 or 15 minutes at the most, depending on how many other architects and students are using the server. All right, so here's the rendering. Got that message at the beginning that said it couldn't find the material. Well, the material it couldn't find was that green, so it just rendered the countertops as gray. We'll worry about fixing that later, but you can see I put the lights in to put some illumination in here. Plus we have the window and the openings. So to save that, just right click and say save image. I want to save it to my proper my proper folder, which would be the school folder and this class. And I don't have any yet, so I usually just call it number 1 and save it. And so that's now I have a copy of that image, and I can, if the kitchen were finished, I could place it into my into one of my sheets. So let's do that. Let's go back to Revit and let's go to one of the sheets. We'll just take a sheet where there isn't any. I can see with a plus sign, that means there's something on that sheet. That's my section. So for now, I'll just put it in the section sheet. I just want to show you how to place it, but go to a sheet, this sheet, and always save the project. And then I'm going to go to the Insert tab and import an image. And I will go to my class. Might have been there. Go to the proper folder that I've placed it in. That's why your folder management is important. Looking for school. So your file management's important to know where you've put it. It's fall term. And there it is. Say okay. And then I can place that on the sheet and then resize it so that it fits inside of the sheet. And then I could make it a little bit bigger. But then I would have that on my sheet. And when I printed the sheet, it would show up like that.